2 years ago, Bandai released the One Piece trading card game. And ever since then, the game has risen in popularity and a strong competitive scene has flourished. As a card gamer who's ventured into all sorts of different TCGs and CCGs alike, I wonder how well I can do trying to evaluate One Piece trading card game cards, having never played the game at all. I called upon Real Joshua, a One Piece TCG content creator who's been covering the game on his YouTube channel for over 5 months. I asked Josh to prepare 7 cards for me to rate, and I have to assign one of our 4 tiers onto each. The tiers are NPC, aka unplayable garbage, gluten-free bread, decent card that can serve a specific niche but ultimately outshined by others in the meta, smartphone, meta-defining technology, meta-defining card. Good cards that are key staples go here. And last but certainly not least, Dr. Manhattan tier. Utterly broken cards that should probably be nerfed, or in this game's case, banned. I watched the How to Play the One Piece card game video to learn the basic game mechanics, and I feel ready to be hard carried by my card game knowledge. Let's see how I do. All right, here we go. I'm totally not nervous. I watched the Emma and Tom tutorial video, and I feel like an expert already. How do you think I'm gonna do, Josh? Like, as somebody who's played Magic and Snap and Legend of Runeterra, I told you I did play the Dragon Ball Super card game, which I do believe, but it was a long time. I don't even really remember the rules properly, but I do think the games are quite similar. Hopefully, you didn't make things too hard for me.
I think some of it should be easy, I think, but I think some of it will be a little bit more difficult. I think what's difficult about One Piece, at least for me, is that like a lot of the principles of value are just like slightly different just because of the way the power system works and the way that like character combat works in this game in general. So I think like if it is difficult, it won't be because like you lack the knowledge of principles. I just think some of it doesn't translate as well over to this game as it has for others.
See, that means if I don't do perfectly, it's okay. I'm still super smart.
Exactly.
Yeah, thank you. So one of the things that I think is gonna throw me off is I was watching the tutorial video, and I just mentioned this to you, like how the Dawn, which is the equivalent of mana or energy, system is like really ramped up, like because you're pulling 2 Dawns every turn after the first turn if you're going first, in which you only pull 1, but after that you pull 2 every time. So as you explained to me before, this system allows you to ramp up your energy very fast, and both players can very easily reach up. So I wonder what effect this has on, like, you know, fully assessing like the power level of cards. I do believe this is one of the things that's probably going to throw me off the most, but I'm ready for a challenge. So without further ado, let's just jump into it. Let's go for the first card. Throw it at me.
Okay, let's start.
Not literally, but yeah, go.
Don't worry, I got you. Let's start with. I actually haven't put this one in yet, but let's go with Pudding Forecast.
Pudding Forecast.
Let me.
Which one is?
I'm putting it in right now.
Okay, cool.
Here we go. I'll read it off to you, and then you can ask me any questions. Okay, Charlotte Pudding Forecast on play, or 4,000 power on play. Your opponent returns all cards in their hand to their deck and shuffles their deck. Then your opponent draws 5 cards. What do you think?
I did not notice she had 3 eyes until like way too late. What the hell? Okay, so Forecast, 4 Dawns, right? 4,000 power. Has counter plus 1,000, which I am gonna ask you in a moment. On play, your opponent returns all cards in their hand, like you said, to their deck and shuffles their deck. Then your opponent draws 3 cards. Highly disruptive
5 cards,
card,
5
it
cards.
seems. 5 cards. What is the hand size limit?
There is no hand size limit.
There is no hand size limit. So against a more reactive deck, this card could definitely just be highly disruptive, right? Like, it is just completely hindering your opponent's, just kind of like slapping your opponent's resource management in the face, really, by just completely undoing everything and making them draw 5 cards. The counter, what does that mean? The counter plus 1,000 on the left.
Yeah, so counter is one of the main defensive resources that you have in this game. There are blocker cards similar to like Taunt and Hearthstone, but the thing is, that there aren't that many of those cards. It's not that it's not like they're just slapping the blocker effect on every single card in this game. So your main way of getting out of attacks when your opponent is attacking your life directly is that you use counter. So if your opponent is attacking you for 5,000 and your leader has 5,000, you need to be at least 6,000 to get out of that attack. So if you discard one counter 1,000 card, then you will be able to effectively get out of that attack.
That's actually similar. That's very similar to the Dragon Ball Super card game, actually. How common is this counter trait on cards?
So it's very popular, very common. Okay. I would say there's counter 1,000 cards and counter 2,000 cards. And then there's 0 counter cards that don't have any counter. The counter 0 cards typically have a really powerful effect where if you were to just read that card, you'd be like, this is OP. I cannot believe that they printed this card. But since it has no defensive countering ability, it lacks that extra kind of flexibility in your hand.
It's a way to balance the card. Yeah,
exactly.
It's an extra way of balancing the card. Okay, that makes sense. So, okay, I mean, you threw a very disruptive card at me. I have instructed you to, put these cards in the tiers that I sent you. So, okay. I think, disruption effects in general are, especially when you say that there's no hand size limit, like that can be super, super powerful. I don't know how often you are capable of building up your hand in this game, but I assume because you preserve a bunch of cards in hand that could potentially be used as counters. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if in this card game, like, you have the ability to really build up a hand. And being able to just attack it like this. Obviously, this card's power lies completely in its disruptive utility, right? Because I don't think that 4,000 power for 4 Dawn is that impressive. I have seen, in the tutorial, I'm pretty sure I've seen, like, 5,000 cards for, like, 5,000 power for, like, cheaper. So I don't think this card's strength lies within its stat line. I think the counter effect seems to be pretty average, standard, just plus 1,000. You said there's plus 2,000, and then there's other cards that are plus 0, but because they're paying for those lack of stats in order to, have a strong ability, it all lies on just how good this card's effect ultimately is. Again, just to clarify, there's no maximum hand size limit, right?
None.
I feel like this can be a very powerful tech card, at the very least, because I don't know the nature of like control decks and stuff, but I do think that it. Oh God, are you throwing me like a terrible card that I'm gonna like rate it super? Oh my God. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling the pressure here. Okay, thought process here. Returning all cards your opponent has and shuffling the deck and then giving them 5 cards, completely hindering any sort of like plans that they build up to. I'm just gonna go ahead and believe that that is a very strong thing to be able to do. And I think that this card definitely has a strong spot potentially in the meta as that, just because you said that there's no hand size limit. Even though drawing 5 cards, like, it's not like you're just discarding their hand, right? But with the 2 Dons per turn, like,
so you could technically play this on turn 2 if you wanted.
You can play this on turn 2.
Mm-hmm.
How many cards do you draw at the beginning of your turn?
1.
Okay. Why would you want to draw your opponent 5 cards on turn 2? But how many cards do you start off with in your hand?
5, but on turn 1, you draw 1 if you're the player who goes second.
Okay, so the player who goes second draws 1 card. You say you could potentially play this card on turn 2, but only if you're going second you can do that. If you're going first, you can't. If you play this on turn 2 and your opponent hasn't developed anything, it's not really doing much at the beginning. I would assume. I think this card's impact comes in later when the player has been able to build up the card. I don't know how strong card draw is in the game.
would you like me to answer? Let me know if like you want me to give you a little bit of context.
A little bit. I mean, how strong is card draw in the game, more or less? Give me that.
Card draw it's very strong in this game. There isn't that much card positive. There aren't that many card positive draw effects in the game. A lot of them will be kind of filtering effects where you play a card, draw 2, and then trash 2, or draw 1 and trash 1.
Yeah, like cycling, more like cycling and not actual card draw.
Exactly.
Like actual +1, +2 card advantage plays, proactive plays are rare in that regard, right?
Yes, but it's also worth remembering that you draw when you take damage. You draw a card from your life.
I think this card could actually find some good potential as well if you're applying pressure and attacking the life a lot, which is generally one of the things that you have to worry about, right? Like if you're too aggressive, you're giving your opponent a lot of resources, right? But if you pair this card with aggression, then you can undo that kind of like card advantage that you've provided your opponent with. So I think this is a relevant card. You know what? I'm gonna lead off. I'm gonna go with a smartphone. I think this is a meta-defining card. I don't know. It'd be weird to say this card is broken. Maybe this card is terrible. I have zero confidence right now, but I feel like this sort of level of disruption, it has to be useful. So that is my answer. Smartphone.
Okay.
What do we got?
Okay, well, I rated it as a smartphone, so you're spot on.
Hey!
Congratulations.
Let's go!
Yeah, that's actually really impressive. I think I chose this card because, again, I do think it requires some knowledge of the game. What's interesting about this card is that it's in blue, which as an archetype it's a bit slower, more control-y.
Big Mom Pirates, is that the archetype, or?
No. It's just like the colors are different, but the factions are like within those.
Okay, I get it.
So it's this card is very controversial. A lot of people would say it's Dr. Manhattan broken.
It's yeah, I assumed that it was like I was worried. I mean, I was worried that it could just be like an NPC in the sense that, oh no, this effect is just like not really useful. Especially when you said that card draw was not as relevant. But then when I thought about the life points, but I could also see this card actually being a Dr. Manhattan. I was actually worried about that because like, man, maybe like this level of just like disruption is actually like too good in this game, and that's what I was worried about. But okay, so sorry to interrupt you. I'm just
no, you're good. I think the thing is also
about a dopamine rush out. It's
very play aroundable, which to me is like if you can play around something, it's not at like that broken tier, You will force you to play somewhat suboptimally when you do play around it, because let's say you do get attacked in the early turns. If you did take that damage, and you would take that card into your hand, and you could potentially get hit harder by an early pudding, you can also counter out of it. And a lot of people who play decks that will get screwed over by pudding will just kind of counter a little bit more aggressively early, so they can save their life, draw that later, and they won't be going up to like 8 cards in hand and then get pudding, where they essentially have to discard 3 cards from their hand. They can keep it.
Very nice, very nice. That was a good one to start with. That was strong. Okay, let's go on. I feel I got self-esteem now. I feel confident. Round 2.
I mean that was really impressive. You kind of battled through and were 100% correct. At least if the players agree with my assessment of pudding. But I'll also have if you run a deck that has blue in its colors, you're usually running pudding at least 2 of. So
yeah, it's a staple. It's a meta-defining card.
It's a staple.
Definitely a smartphone. Okay,
let's go with Sanji, 9 cost. I mean, it's another blue card. I feel like I should go for something that's not blue.
You've already said it, so let's go with it. It's fine.
Okay. Let's go with Sanji.
I see it right. Sanji, the 9 cost, right? Okay,
yes.
Break it down for us.
Sanji, 9 cost, 9k. On play, reveal 1 card from the top of your deck and play up to 1 character with a cost of 9 or less other than Sanji. Then place the rest at the bottom of your deck. I think it's worth saying here, and this is giving some stuff away, but there are other card effects that allow you to organize the top 5 cards of your deck, or top 3 cards of your deck, or whatever.
It's not an exclusive effect. On play, okay, so I'm I may have a little bit of ADHD, so I have to like reread this if you don't mind.
No, you're good. It takes me like 5 reads for these cards sometimes to understand what is happening.
Yeah, I'm gonna do so out loud as well because it helped me. So okay, so reveal 1 card from the top of your deck, all right, and play up to 1 character with a cost of 9 or less other than him, and then place the rest at the bottom of your deck. So I mean, you're only placing that card at the bottom of your deck if it's not a character, essentially. Right. So Sanji comes in, 9,000 power, seems like quite a bit of power, but again, you're paying 9 Dons for this. You're paying 9 Don for a card that's coming in and allowing you to spawn like another. I mean, I would assume that this card shines more in decks with a higher curve and like really big characters, because being able to cheat them out. Right? I mean, obviously, like, you cap at 9, so we can't include cards that may cost, like, 10, which is the maximum amount of Dons you can have. But I would assume, like, you know, a deck with, like, you know, beefy cards, like 9 cost, 8 cost, like, however you can possibly, like, justify a core with that, because I don't know what other elements there are in the game that allow you to... You have... When I did ask you about, like, the Don system... You did say that people can reach that relatively quickly because of the fact that you're getting 2 Dons per turn. So because you're getting 2 Dons per turn, it shouldn't actually take you as long. So if you're going second, right? Turn 1, turn 2, turn 3. I'm using my fingers. Turn 4. So you can play this at turn 5 at the earliest, correct?
And if you're going first, you can also play it on turn 5.
On turn 5, yes, that makes sense. On turn 5. I mean, on turn 5, a lot has happened, but to be able to drop like a big... I mean, to be fair, like this guy has no other ability besides that, and while he does have 9,000, he cannot attack on the same turn he's played, right? Mm-hmm. So that's also relevant. It seems like very expensive, and 9,000 is definitely an impressive stat, but is 9,000 worth 9 Dons? Let me think. I think this... I don't think this card is an NPC just because I believe that there generally is room in card games for like big boy plays. I also think making Sanji like an inherently bad card. Though, are there other versions of Sanji in the game?
Yeah, there's a lot.
There's a lot, okay. Mm-hmm. So that thought process is not very helpful then. But generally, like, I think having big dump plays cards and being able to just like chain multiple characters can give you a lot. But I would assume that there are more efficient ways of doing this that are just not as expensive. I get the vibes from this card that it's not like, it may see play in some decks maybe, but ultimately it's just like there are just better things to be doing. So I'm gonna go with the gluten-free bread here.
And again, you're spot on. That's exactly what I rated this card. Yeah, it's a good card, and it is deck defining, right? Like the decks that run it, they're built around it. There's one deck right now, Marco, that just came out in the most recent set that allows you to draw a card and then place one card from your hand either on the top or bottom of your deck, and then like kind of debuff an enemy character. That's its leader effect. So this is obviously very good in that deck because you can just, draw something and then put it on top of your deck, or put any card from your hand on top of your deck and then play it out. So the other thing is that whatever this card brings out, you can use that card's on play effect as well because you are playing it from the top of your deck. So you essentially get like 2 cards for the price of 1. This essentially just becomes a free 9k body on the board, is how you should look at it, attached to another 9 cost card, which are very, very powerful typically. So that can be
it can brick too is the problem.
Yeah, it can brick. I would say in the deck that you run it now, the Marco deck, you kind of can't brick with it because the deck is kind of built around that. But
because you can look at the cards beforehand on top and you can be like, okay, now's the time to play it, right?
Yes. Well, I mean, in the Marco deck, you could do it that turn because the effect from the leader lets you do that all in the same turn.
Allows you to look.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And then, but before that, like before Marco was released, this card was a bit worse because you would have to do quite a bit more planning in advance to like make sure that the card on top of your deck was good. And if you were planning on drawing cards using a card effect before that, it got even more difficult, and like the math you had to do in your brain was very difficult. But this is a card that I really like. I think it's kind of a niche card though. Hopefully will become more popular, but it is one of those that's like, it's kind of a latent ability that like if they release more support for it, it can become broken in the future.
Yeah. I completely understand what you mean. Like it's all about like just the fact that you spoke about this leader that can like look at the top card of your deck. Like all of a sudden like this whole problem that playing this card represents like it no longer exists, right? And you have that uncertainty. How about the cost of it though? Isn't it like very expensive? Like for nine dons?
It is. This card is very expensive, but if you bring out another 9-cost card that has really good value,
that is definitely worth absolutely. That is,
and that's what you're gonna be doing in a Marco deck realistically. So,
yeah. Okay, cool.
If you play out another card that has like insane value for 9K, it's like you've added another 9-cost body worth of value onto that.
But it is also important to know that like these kind of plays, like there can be situations in which maybe I'm not sure what the pacing of the game is like, but maybe with this card you could develop 2 like 9K bodies, but they don't have the blocker ability. So you're still kind of like wide open for that turn, right?
Yeah, although because again you can play this on turn 5, you're usually not in a spot where you're like
not in a spot
fighting
of
for your
turn
life.
5 is definitely okay. That's good.
And also like the 9-cost bodies that this is going to be bringing out they have a lot of defensive capability. One of them will like make your leader a 7K leader, so it's a lot harder for your opponents to hit you. If they have a lot of, even if they have a board full of 5Ks, they'd have to power them all up a lot to hit you. So this will typically bring out something that slows the enemy down for a turn.
Oh, nice. All right, I'm ready for round 3.
Okay, so I have this card. You're the one who should disappear. It's a 0-cost.
It's an event.
Yeah, it's a 0-cost event. You should know that 0-cost events are not like OP in and of themselves because they cost 0. A lot of other card games have these like 0-cost things that are really broken. But yeah, it's not that unpopular to have 0-cost effects.
Okay.
Counter, you may trash. So this is used on your opponent's turn when something is being attacked. This happens during the counter phase. You can trash.
Can counters only be applied in combat? Like
yes.
You can't like counter like them playing an event, for example.
No.
Okay.
So you may trash 1 card from your hand. Up to 1 of your leader or character cards gains plus 3,000 power during this battle. So this is the essential use of this effect is that if you have a brick in your hand, that is a card that doesn't have any counter attached to it, you can use this in addition to discarding that other card that doesn't have any counter on it for 3K power. So it's like you have a 2K and a 1K.
Which it's also like it's not costing you dons, so you don't have to have dons untapped before the attack happens to resort to this, which is important as well. And then I see a trigger there too.
Yes.
So if this is in your life, it triggers.
Yeah. So trigger if you take this damage, the effect occurs. If you have if you take damage and this is the card that you pull, then the trigger effect happens. I'll say that. If you have 0 life cards, you may add up to 1 card from the top of your deck to the top of your life cards, then trash 1 card from your hand. So if this is your last life, then you essentially get to re-heal that life at a cost of trashing 1 from your hand. Actually, that's not. I should say it's technically not a cost. If your hand is at 0 and this is your last life, this occurs even if you don't have a card to trash.
Okay, so first of all, I'm gonna tackle like the trigger effect. I do feel like the trigger effect is highly specific. Like this card has to literally be the last card, the last life left for it to activate, which I would assume that this activating comes into play almost like very infrequently, really, because of the fact, because it has a very specific trigger requirement, right? Like you have, this has to be the very last life card left for you. You take that hit. I do know that if you lose your last life, you're still not dead, because they have to attack your leader to kill you with no life, right? So this, I mean, it's a great effect if it happens, right? It just allows you to essentially undo the attack, but it has to. So I'm gonna evaluate this card focusing more on its ability as, you know, as a counter, right? Because I do feel like this is a very fringe effect that, you know, won't come into play most often than not, since, you know, when you attack lives, it's just a completely random effect. Like you just hit one random life, right? Like you shuffle your lives, so you have no agency over like which ones of your cards are life cards or trigger cards, right?
Right. So
yeah, okay. So counter, you can trash one card from your hand, so you can use this and then discard a card essentially, and a +3 power boost seems like it's not nothing. It's definitely quite a bit, especially considering that it's also free. Like in a pinch, this card can really. Now, are there like synergies with like trashing cards from your hand? Like are there cards that can, you know, benefit from you doing that?
Yeah, there are some, but I wouldn't say that they're
not many.
Super
no,
significant.
It's not like an arc.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. If you do not trash a card from your hand, this doesn't, like, you don't get anything, right? Correct. And I mean, it feels like you're okay. So you're dropping down. Okay, so you're losing card advantage when playing this. Like you're losing. You explained to me earlier that card draw and card advantage generation through proactive means is quite limited and very, very inherently valuable within the game. So this card gives you a strong boost, but it requires you to throw. Essentially, you're going down 2 cards for that. You're getting a strong boost, but there's no way to play this card as a one-off, right? Like I just played this. You have other cards that do have the counter, like for example +1000. Like there's a lot of cards that have +1000 counters. This is like a very common thing. This card allows you to, technically, by dropping this card and discarding one card that you don't like you are getting more power out of than otherwise you would by trashing 2 +1000 counter cards. But then again, countering seems to be pretty important. Oof, this is tricky. This is tricky because I'm thinking about card advantage here and stuff. But but in this game, like you are definitely going to be dropping counters. Like you need to be able to have ways to increase your power to resist attacks. Like that is like the main way of like disrupting your opponent's onslaught. So this is a pretty strong boost. I would assume that cards that have +2000 counters definitely pay the price for that in other ways. Oh boy, this is I'm torn on this one because honestly, like the -2 just seems. The -2 just seems like really in order, like for example with Charlotte Pudding, which we covered earlier, like when a card says counter +1000, do you have to pay any Don to use it?
No.
I may totally miss the mark here, but here we go. I think this is an NPC.
Okay, I think so. We fooled you for the first time.
Okay.
This card is actually.
You got me. Dr. Manhattan. Don't tell me that.
Yeah, it's like a Dr. Manhattan level card. People might disagree, but a lot of people. This has for a very long time been a very, very strong card. It's either smartphone or Dr. Manhattan. I wouldn't put it smartphone. Like it's not just good. I think it's
okay. So it's like really good. I'll learn from this one though. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay. So explain to me why is this card so broken?
Yeah. So okay, every card or every color in this game has its own zero counter event with this exact same effect, the counter. You may trash one card from your hand up to one of your leader. So it's just plus 3k, which is, it's at its base level, it's very good. Most decks will run at least like one or two of these types of cards, no matter what color. Because, especially decks that run a lot of bricks, because if you have a card or a hand full of just cards that don't have any counter on them, then you can just die to regular attacks, not even powered up. And there's no way to kind of survive that. So at a base level, this effect is very solid, and a lot of decks will run it. The thing is that this trigger is insane, especially in the decks that it's popular in. Well, this is what makes the card, actually. The trigger is what makes the card.
So I underplayed that completely.
Yes.
How is it? Because how common is it for this to be the last life you have left, though? Unless you run 4 copies of this.
So that's the thing, is like, it's relatively uncommon, right? Like, a lot of times your last card won't be this, but there are cards that allow you to manipulate your life such that this will be that bottom card.
I did not know that.
And there are leaders.
Oh, that's sick.
There are leaders in yellow that allow you to sort of reorganize your cards.
That's really cool. I like that.
And
like being able to tamper with your lives, and that's really neat.
I would say the worst example of why this card has been so like infamous is that there's a leader called Enel who has been the most powerful yellow leader up until this point. He is having he's not as good anymore. Like this set, he's starting to kind of come down, but last set he was like top in tournaments. You know, he was a very good leader, but he has this effect where when you go from 1 life to 0 life, you discard a card from your hand, and then you can put 1 life onto your life. So you get to heal 1 for free.
Oh, and you can pick a card from your hand to put into your life.
No, you can't. No. It goes off of the top of your deck, so that's random.
Oh.
But if this card is that last card, then you get to heal 2, because you get to heal 1 from this card and 1 from your leader effect, which is like, if an opponent is going all in to try to kill you too early and you pull this off the top, your opponent is screwed. Like, because you're healing for 2 and it's insane. So, and the other thing is that like that leader will trigger he'll get a lot of last life cards, because whenever he goes from 1 to 0, he gets to bring another one back. So there's a lot of ways for him. There's a lot of chances for him to get this off the top. And even if not, he runs a lot of bricks in this deck, so this card is never going to be dead, really, even in his hand.
Yeah, I think I definitely underestimated like just having that power available, and the fact that you are gonna have you not very useful cards in your hand in games. I still have to like properly like visualize like the flow of like just card advantage in this game, right? Like the amount of like cards that you're getting and stuff. Like you did say that card draw is limited, but you have to factor in the lives and stuff. And yeah, I guess so having that plus 3,000 power, that makes this card like people, like as you said, people want counters regardless of the deck that they're playing. But on top of that, the trigger is what really, and that's like the one thing that I undermine like very quickly. So I definitely you got me there. You got me with this one.
We got one. We got one at least. Yeah. And the other thing is like those cards.
I can rebound.
The card that you heal could also have a trigger on it. So it's just it's crazy.
Okay.
All right.
Round 4.
Let's go. Kind of want one of every color in here. So let's go with Kaido and Linlin.
Which is okay. What's it called?
Kaido and Linlin.
Kaido. Yeah.
This is from the most recent set. Do you have it pulled up?
Yeah.
Okay. Kaido and Linlin, 10 cost, 12k power. It's the highest stat line possible in the game so far.
Oh.
When attacking, Dawn minus 10. So you have to de-ramp all of your Dawn cards. KO all of your characters other than this character. So KO all characters other than this character, then add up to 1 card from the top of your deck to the top of your life cards, and trash up to 1 card from the top of your opponent's life cards. So when you attack, you return all your Dawn to your Dawn deck, you KO everything on the board, and then you heal 1, and your opponent trashes 1, so they don't draw it into their hand.
They trash 1 life card, and you add up 1 card from the top of your deck to your life cards. Okay, so you're healing 1, you're getting a life away from the opponent, but they're not getting that card, and then you're KOing all other characters. But this costs 10 Dawn. 10 Dawn, and so in order for you to apply, like, to attach or to, like, get rid of these Dawns, does it matter if they are tapped or not tapped?
No.
Like, if they're tapped?
No.
It doesn't matter.
It does not matter.
Oh, damn. Oh, damn. I mean, Sanji can come in and just can bring out a card, and you already said that card was already playable. This costs 1 more energy, has a ridiculous stat line, but it has to attack. How easy is it to like remove like big characters in this game? Are there like event like cards that just straight up kill characters?
It's usually cost attached. There is 1 card in blue, cost 6, that allows you to remove anything, so I could remove this.
But most removal is like combat centric then.
To an extent, black has a lot of removal though. So it's mostly combo based.
My question is, like, is that removal like dependent on the power of the card?
It's dependent on mostly the cost of the card. So it can stuff can remove a character of a cost of 2 or less, or a cost of 5 or less, etc.
Okay.
But there are ways of manipulating your opponent's the costs of their characters.
Interesting. Yeah, because I'm thinking, like, if you think about games like Magic the Gathering, for example, you know, removal is extremely efficient there, right? And you can remove like an 8-drop or a 9-drop a lot of times with just like a 2-mana play, right? And that makes these sorts of cards, unless you're able to cheat them out before they should be able to be played, that makes them kind of like, you know, not great. But this is a scary one. Like, this is a pretty insane effect, but then again, like, having 10 Dawns. Question, if you attach Dawns to other cards, when it's your turn again, do they go back to the Dawn pile, or do they go to your cost area?
Oh, they go back to your cost area.
Okay, yeah. So you don't just lose them.
Yeah, no.
And you did say earlier that it's not hard for people to reach 10 Dawns. Like, people can just focus on piling up the Dawns and going up to 10. Yo, this seems like a nasty effect. It's just doing so much. It's wiping the board clean, and it's healing you and putting applying pressure on top of like the 12,000 power that's just attacking as well. And because you're KOing all characters as is attacking, they cannot block with them, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can't. The one reason I could see this card being terrible is because of like the negative 10 Dawn just not being, but it also having like such a strong stat line that you said is also like the highest. Give me a moment. Oh God, I'm gonna go with. For me, this has to be smart. Imagine like cheating this out with like Sanji too.
You can't cheat out with Sanji because he can only bring out a
It's blue. Oh yeah, sure. Never mind. Yeah. Good, very good point there. But still, I still think this card is pretty wacky, and yeah, I'm gonna go. It's a 10 cost though, like. It seems like a wild effect. I'm gonna go with smartphone.
I have this card as NPC.
Oh God, is that bad?
Yeah.
Is it that? Okay, explain to me. What the hell?
So I don't know if it would be NPC or gluten-free bread, but I don't know any decks that run this, and it just came out this set, and it's like the highest rarity of card in the game. So at least when it comes to just like the
I got fooled. I got fooled again. Okay. So is it because of the Dawn effect? Tell me it's because of the Dawn effect.
It's partially that. It's also just really slow because the effect only happens when attacking.
Yeah, so I figured that would be.
You're playing this, and then you have to wait a turn. And if it does get removed, which it can, the black decks can typically remove any 10 drop if they're. And maybe I should have said more about this, but I feel like that would have been giving too much away. But like.
No, yeah, I just fell into like the idea of like, man, like 2 Dawns per turn. You can ramp up relatively quickly in this game. You're not vulnerable turn 5, you said. So I'm like, man, maybe just dropping this can be a massive deal, but it really depends on how prevalent, the removal is and such, and because it's not really doing anything on. I should have followed up on that because it's not doing anything on the turn that it's coming in. Like you have to wait an entire turn for this to do anything. So it kind of is like an answer me or die sort of effect. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure like a lot of like fine-tuned competitive decks are gonna be able to deal with stuff like this. Well, God damn it.
It's not even what's crazy about this card, and the reason why I have it so low is because it's not even an answer me or die type of thing, because the Dawn -10 it's an insane cost for a card.
Yeah.
Because if you have no way to re-ramp, it's like your next turn you're gonna be at 2 Dawn because you only get 2 Dawn out of your deck. So it's like, imagine if you just destroyed your entire mana pool.
I was thinking about like the Dawn attaching to this card, but then it would go back to your cost area. But it actually goes back, and you did say that, I think. The Dawns all go back to so you lose all your mana, basically.
Yes, but if you could use the 10 Dawn to do something like play other cards,
and then it goes back. But then you're kind of like left wide open after. Like if this attack doesn't, like if you just don't do it, then you're just like all of a sudden you're out of gas, right? Like you have to rebuild, right?
Yeah, there's a theoretical combo here that's interesting where there's a card that re-ramps you like for 5 at a cost of 3. You could go up 5 Dawn or mana. But the caveat is that like you have to go down to whatever your opponent is at the end of your turn. But if your opponent's at 10 Dawn, you don't have to. You just get those 5 Dawn back for free. And there's another card that allows you to make your board immune to getting KO'd. So you could play both of those cards and re-ramp and protect your board from getting KO'd while wiping the board with this. But that's a very specific combo, and I don't know if it would be that good, and you would have to have this card not die before you play that. So
Okay, no, but I also learned from this one, to not go crazy with like, to properly evaluate like actually like big cost cards, that was a big hit. I can't believe I was about to Dr. Manhattan this thing. Oh my goodness, my entire, all my credibility down the drain. Okay, 2-2. Let's keep it positive win rate. Let's go for round 5.
Okay.
This will make or break me.
Let's go for 8 cost Gecko Moria.
Gecko Moria. Okay.
8 cost, 9,000 power. On play, choose up to 1 character card with a cost of 4 or less and up to 1 character card with a cost of 2 or less from your trash. Play 1 card and play the other card rested.
Okay, 8 cost, 9,000. Choose. Okay, so with a cost 4 or less and up to 1 character card with a cost 2 or less from your trash. All right, so this is a strong value play. Sanji was essentially picking up the top card of your deck and potentially playing it for 9 Dawn. But then that could be a really big card as well. And now that you say that this new leader came out, the card may be quite better because it's more consistent in that regard. This card is not looking at the top of your deck. This card is looking at your trash pile. So it is essentially resurrecting 1 card and bringing the other card to your hand. It does have a limit, right, for like a 4-cost card and then a 2-cost card, but it has 9,000 power, and unlike what was her name? Unlike Kaido and Linlin, this has an immediate effect upon entry, which is very important, right? Like it's an on-play effect, which means you are going to be guaranteed the value from this card. You can also, so this is, if you're going second, right, you get to play this on turn 4 potentially, and on turn 4, if you've had a dynamic, you know, game going on, it's a really high value play. And we've said how cards are, like, card draw in general in this game is more restricted. So this is a card that just gives you a +2 card advantage fundamentally, while also being 9,000 like power on its own. So man, I this is definitely good. Like, there's no doubt in my mind this is good. The question is, how good is it? Also,
well, you said that like it draws one to hand and plays one. It plays both. It plays 2 cards on the field.
Wait, play 1 card and play the other card. Arrested. Oh, tempo, so baby. Tempo. Wow, holy mother of tempo. Wow, this card is coming in, and this is like Sanji on steroids in a way. Even though, like, obviously, like, you're not bringing out a huge card, but you have full agency over what you're getting. That is tremendous. That is really good. I'm gonna go Dr. Manhattan.
You are correct, 100%. Like,
yes,
yeah,
let's go. Okay,
is,
not 2 and 3, 3 and 2. Let's go.
Yeah.
Oh,
I figured you'd get this one. It's the most broken card in the game. Like,
oh really?
Yeah.
Okay.
There are people who say otherwise they play black, and most black players will still say that this card is broken.
The bias.
Yeah, it's like unconscionable that this card exists. It came out 2 sets ago now, and it's wreaked havoc. It makes black the most popular deck and archetype.
Oh boy! So it's legal. It's legal still.
It's legal. It hasn't been banned.
Oh, oof. Okay.
Other cards.
So this is definitely as meta defining as it gets. Like, this is something that you have to. Perhaps I mean, I assume that you have access to, like, trash interaction within the game.
Yes. Yeah. There's a good amount of that. Pretty much the tier 1 leader right now, Rob Lucci, uses this because whenever you attack with that leader, you trash the top 2 cards of your deck.
Oh, you mill. Okay.
So you're self-milling, and you can just play this and play stuff out of there and KO your opponent's stuff with these on-play effects that you're bringing out from the trash. What makes this powerful is that it combos with other cards that can KO your opponent's stuff on the board. And since this costs 8 Dawn, if you have 10 Dawn, you can use that to reduce the cost of your opponent's stuff and then play stuff from the trash that kills it. So it's not just like a tempo swing in that you're playing stuff. It's also because you're able to destroy your opponent's board while playing stuff. And 8 cost 9k is already a good value body. 8 cost 8k would be like, 8 cost 10k is vanilla. This is only slightly underneath that stat line. So
8 cost 10k is vanilla, and this is only 1. It has a tremendous value. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm happy that I at least got the most broken card of the game right.
Yes. You are correct. I'm glad you're correct. I was trying to set it up.
If I called this an NPC, I would have aborted this recording.
Yeah, this card is broken as hell, dude. It's annoying, man. I'm like, every deck I make is an attempt to beat this card.
Yeah, I feel you. Like that, I can definitely think of a few similarities within the card games that I play. My condolences.
Yes.
We got 2 more to go. And we're currently 3 and 2. Okay.
We got 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 2 more.
It's 7 total.
Okay. I put in a couple extra just in case, because I'm like kind of seeing as I go what I'm feeling. And I've already spoiled the most broken card in the game, so what do we do here? The card is Lead Performer Disaster. For Dawn, it's an event. Draw one card, then add up to one Dawn card from your Dawn deck and set it as active. And it has trigger, activate this card's main effect.
Ooh, this is an interesting one. First of all, I really like the art. Like it's just like a manga panel kind of like, right? Like it's definitely interesting.
Yeah, it's from a starter deck, so the art is a little bit, not as good as it is now.
Yeah, but I like it. It's a different feel to it. I don't dislike it. Lead Performer Disaster. So as an event it's essentially a ramp card, right? It's honestly really expensive for it seems for 4 Dawn, just drawing one card and then ramping 1 Dawn. I mean theoretically it costs 3 because you're getting that Dawn back that turn. But even then, like you do require the 4 Dawn beforehand, and it's just kind of like you're committing your entire turn to this. And considering you're able to get 2 Dawn out of your Dawn deck at every turn, this is kind of like half ramp, really. So I think the true value within this card lies in the trigger ability. The fact that if this card is in your life pool, then you can activate the effect immediately. And even then, I don't think it's the craziest thing. Like, yeah, you're drawing one card, but then you're just like adding... I think this is an NPC. I think this card is just very, very expensive, and it really is balanced around the idea of like its trigger being the thing. Maybe I'm underplaying the trigger again, but because you don't control the cards that go into your life pool, I feel like this card can be a pretty big brick, and it's just very slow at what it does, and I'm not impressed by the ramp at all. The card cycling, I mean, it's fine, but if you play it from your hand, you're not really drawing, you're cycling. And I think for 4 Dawn, you can be doing better things. I could be wrong though, but I'm gonna go with NPC.
Okay, yeah, that's about what I would put it at. Even in like ramp decks, this is not that good.
There we go.
I was kind of banking on maybe there's like Wild Growth and Hearthstone that was like a pretty good card, and then there's like Runeterra ramp effects as well. Like the
ramp can be very powerful, but because of the way the Dawn mechanic works, and because it's only 1 Dawn, considering you get 2, like it's just hard to be impressed by this if you think about it. But it's a nice bait. Like I was at first I saw, well, maybe there were some decks that and because I failed before by underrating like the trigger from you're the one who should disappear, right? Like I completely missed the mark on that one. I was kind of on the fence, like, man, maybe I'm still downplaying these triggers, but then it's just like, the trigger is not even the craziest thing, right?
Yeah. No, so I think that's a very good sign of like you already understanding the card pool in One Piece quite a bit better now. Because even though this is like a turn 2 play, where you're
I want to play now. I want to play. Yeah, no, I'll try it. Is there a digital client?
Yeah, it's not official, but it's really solid.
Okay. Noted. All right, we got one last to go. We're 4-2. Let's see if we can end it on a good note. 5-2.
Okay.
Throw me your last pathetic card, Kaiba. Here we go.
There, my deck has no pathetic cards.
Oh boy, incoming Manhattan.
Let's see. Let's go for another. I'm just throwing secret rares because a lot of these are like they could be really good or they could be really bad. Or
okay.
And this one is a kind of marquee character, and I haven't shown you a green yet.
Oh yeah, this is my wife's favorite character.
Oh
actually.
Yeah, she's got
Zoro.
good taste.
And I think most females actually. Like.
Yeah, I mean I don't blame him. He's popular with the guys too.
No. No. I mean he makes me question things, so I understand. 9. Okay, I'll let you read it. I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself.
No, you're good. 9 cost, 9,000 power. A lot of text here. When attacking once per turn, 1 cost, you may rest the specified number of Dawn cards in your cost area. Set this character as active. So when you're attacking 1 time per turn, you can restand it, which would allow you to attack again or just leave it be. Activate main once per turn, 2 cost. If you rest 2 Dawn, set this character as active. And that one is an activate main ability, so you can just activate that whenever you want, technically. It doesn't have to be when you're attacking. So
okay, this card essentially is threatening with like multiple attacks. Like I attack again, I attack again. I assume this card can attack basically up to 3 times in one turn with these abilities.
Yes.
And that's the cap right there. One of the things to factor in, this card is expensive. It's 9 Dawn, and what I factor in, the activate main ability set this character as active. So basically, correct me if I'm wrong, but this guy is played on turn 9, but on that turn he can't really do anything with these abilities until the next turn.
Turn 5, but yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I said
9
turn
Dawn
9. I
turn.
mean like for
Yeah.
So you play this, he can't do anything immediately. But if he sticks through, I mean, if he had Rush, it could be scary, but at the same time, not really, because you do need to be paying Dawn to trigger these abilities. So, first of all, if you want to do anything, you have to be paying 2 first. You can't just go with the first one because you have to be attacking. Well, no, that's not true, because you can attack and then trigger it and then reactivate it again.
Yeah.
That's interesting. This card, like we mentioned with Sanji, it can come in on turn 5. Sanji just like kind of like gives you 2 bodies potentially. This guy seems kind of slow. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like he overall seems slow. He's a threatening, like obviously being able to attack multiple times with this is very scary, but unless you have ways of cheating him out, and because we have evaluated that, like for 8 cost, like the vanilla stat line is 10,000 power. This is 9,000 power for 9. So you could even be running into a situation where you play this and you run into characters. The opponent's characters are just like, well, I guess the opponent's characters don't matter as much as long as they're not blockers, because your offense is going to be mostly targeted towards the leader itself. But this guy can also clear up the board potentially. It's overall, like, in a vacuum, like, the card itself, like, if you manage to play this and untap with it, it's good. The question is, how often are you actually untapping with it? Because I did fall into the trap with the 10 drop before. And the thing about Sanji is that he has an on-play effect, so the high cost of the card is somewhat mitigated by the fact that it is getting its effect upon entry, so the value is there. This guy comes in, and if he gets removed, then that's that, and that's very hard to ignore. Like, there is no way. First of all, there's no way that this card is a Dr. Manhattan. Like, there's absolutely no universe in which that's the case. So we have to factor in the 3 ones. Is this card really that bad that it's an NPC? Like, are they gonna make my boy Zoro an NPC? That would actually break my heart a little bit. But then again, there's multiple variations of the same characters, right? So I guess that's fine. It's definitely not a Dr. Manhattan. It's definitely not that. And again, I'm just gonna build on what I've learned throughout this video. It's an expensive card. It needs for you to untap with it. So I'm gonna go with gluten-free bread. Because I do think that maybe some decks can actually play it and stuff. Maybe I should have gone with NPC, but I'm gonna go with gluten-free bread. Screw it.
Okay. Some people would argue gluten-free bread, but I think it's more at this point smartphone. It started out definitely like NPC, kind of climbed up to gluten-free bread, and now is approaching smartphone territory.
Okay.
It's really interesting because, you know, this is like with Sanji, it was like there's potential for this to get better in the future. Like, this effect is just very good. The thing is that, like, if this card sticks, unlike Kaido and Linlin, it really is like you can just destroy your opponent with it. And there are quite a few matchups where this card is your win condition. Like, you're looking for this card because it's nuts. It does so much. The ability to attacking again with a card in this game is like if you were to play an entirely new card. And the stat line being 9k is really, really solid.
Definitely allows you to pick up like earlier game threats and also just really threaten the leader. And also something that I failed to evaluate comparing this to the 10 drop is that this doesn't require you to stack up like 10 Dons, right?
Right. So if you can
To
attack this
trigger that.
3 times, if you have just 3 Dawn available, which leaves you with 7 extra available to use on your turn, which is just, it's crazy. Against a lot of difficult matchups, like this is your win condition. Against stuff where you can, where, you know, other, against other leaders that can remove this easily, it is less good for sure. But there are, you know, ways to kind of get around that, and people are running multiple of these now so that they can kind of like keep these coming if you are able to remove one. Okay, well, you can remove one. How about 2? How about 3?
I dropped the other one. I just played the other one after. I get it.
So yeah,
this was a good one. You definitely got me with this one. Like this was and I'm honestly like I'm happy to hear that it's like it's actually good. You know, because now I can pitch the game to my wife as well. You know, she can play Zoro.
Yeah.
It's a very rare card though, right? You said like this is a secret rare.
Yeah, secret rare. So like you'll get one of these in a box, and there's 2 secret rares per set. So if you get the other one, you're not going to get this in the box.
I like it that I like that in a game like, you know, high end characters or creatures units can be viable like this. You know, that don't have to immediately, you know, get you that value upon entry. Like I think that's actually healthy.
Yeah.
And good, and that's overall a positive thing. So, you know, it sucks that I missed, but you know, 4 and 3, I'm pretty proud of that. I think considering my knowledge, that's not a bad showing, and ultimately this sounds like a fun card to build around. Honestly,
it is. It's so fun, and my channel is typically doing like jank deck builds or trying to make cards work.
You're like me. You're like me then, yeah.
Yeah, learn from the best.
You're not a meta slave, are you?
No, not these days. Well, when I play at locals, like I might bring or like a case tourney or something like that. I might bring like one of the more viable decks.
I get it.
Yeah. This is a really fun card, and I love to see it getting better. And I wouldn't say you were strictly wrong on your assessment of this, because there have been points where it's been much worse for the same reasons that you said. So I was being a little bit tricky there, but I think that's what's also fun.
No, but it's good. It's good. Like especially like with the last one, like I definitely did not want an easy one, but you know, I'll take my score. Like 4 and 3, considering I do think I may have gotten lucky in some of my other assessments. I think it's only fair. So. That was great, man. Now, honestly, like after like especially like with this last card and just seeing like how much like diversity of play patterns, I may, you know, you may lose a little bit of respect for me after I say this, but I do think I always tend to gravitate towards like, you know, the black color in card games, you know, removal, graveyard, or in this case trash interaction. Like that's definitely more of my jam. So I may end up becoming a Gecko moria. I won't. I'll have some respect for myself, but I will end up, you know, dabbling in that one. But yeah, it legitimately looks like a compelling game. Definitely not simplistic. You know, it's still and very different as well. Like I really do like that's something that I really enjoyed about the Dragon Ball Super card game, like the life system, right? And how you have to evaluate, like, okay, I can apply pressure, but the more damage I deal, the more cards I'm giving my opponent, right? And depending on the matchup, that can be a good or a bad idea. Like, you know, the pacing at which you know, essentially pull the trigger can vary depending on what kind of deck you're running into and stuff. And it feels like this game has a lot of nuance going on to it because of that.
It is. And I think one thing that was interesting to me is that you talked so much about the stat lines, and stat lines are important in this game, but they're not as important as they are in other games. Like paying a bit of stat line cost for a better effect is not as big of a deal in this game, because anything over 5k, you're already pretty good. The big break,
because you're able to attack the leader, right?
Yeah,
because you're able to hit the leader, and a lot of times it's gonna be like your target. And I completely see how, like, okay, 9,000 on this Zoro, like sure it could be like 10 or 11,000, but you always take a 9,000 that can potentially attack 3 times, right? Like that's just wild.
Yeah.
So I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. So there's a lot of nuance to the break points, like 7K.
Especially because you can counter and into stuff anyway. So if something bigger comes at you, you can have stuff to like retaliate, you know, or to add power when you actually need that power in those specific scenarios. So you can navigate around that with like other cards too. So I understand what you're saying, and that's also cool to hear. You know, that it's like I like cards with text. You know, I enjoy that. So
Yeah.
I think actually, like, out of all these cards that you showed, I mean, obviously, like, because I'm an edgelord wannabe, like, and you said Gecko Moria is the most broken card in the game. I'm naturally like gravitated away, away from it. But I think the Zoro one was the coolest. Like, this is the kind of card that makes me think, damn, like, this game seems fun. So,
yeah, it's a really cool card, and like there's a lot of text on it, but it's pretty simple. It's just like you can attack 3 times if you pay three Don, basically.
But it's very Zoro. It is fitting for the character, more so than the Sanji ability, which is just like recruiting, right?
Yeah.
With Zoro's ability is actually fitting for the character. I think that's also important. When you're designing cards, like the thematics, right? Like for the flavor of it, like taking the character into account. Like, I'm curious as to like what some Luffy cards do and stuff. Like, I may be researching into that later. And yeah, man, thank you so much for coming by today. And thank you for really good lineup, really good test right here. And I feel like I learned a lot over a short period of time. And I'm excited to try the One Piece trading card game out. Again, thank you for stopping by. If you have anything you want to say. Check out Josh's channel, by the way. It will be in the description down below. You do upload content on this game. I would assume, do you do it on the digital client, or do you record like physical gameplay?
Yeah, it's on the One Piece sim, which is it's like an unofficial client, but it's basically the way that everybody practices.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
it's a really solid client. But yeah, real_Joshua.
I'll be trying it out.
Thanks so much for having me, man. It was a great time.
Awesome, man. Well, I think pretty good. I'm gonna pat myself on the back. Hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you in the next one.